Hello and welcome to the Tough Girl Podcast, a 3-time award-winning show that aims to motivate and inspire you while increasing the amount of female role models in the media, especially in relation to adventure and physical challenges. I'm your host, Sarah Williams. If you're passionate about adventure, challenge and learning from women who have overcome obstacles and achieved remarkable things, then this is the podcast for you. Every Tuesday at 7 a.m, new episodes go live featuring incredible women who share their stories, insights and tips to help you achieve your dreams and goals. You can support the Tough Girl mission by signing up as a patron. Visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast. Keep listening until the very end as I share more information about what's going on with me with Tough Girl Challenges, give shout outs and recommend other Tough Girl Podcast episodes. More information can be found at toughgirlchallenges.com.
I'm Anna Humphries, founder of The Mountain Girl. I like to describe it as a bit of a movement that helps people build resilience through nature. So I grew up in Worcester, pretty flat area in the Midlands, but I had the Malvern Hills close to me when I was a kid, and I think I was always drawn to what I thought were mountains, but are actually hills. And over the years, I've decided to sort of blend my adventure with teaching others to find strength in themselves. And for me, a big part of that was being the role model that I needed when I was growing up, because I didn't have one, and believe that the outdoors is not just survival, although I do a lot of survival stuff, but it's more the connection, the courage and the joy that we all have shared in this incredible world.
Tell me more about the Malvern Hills. Were you going out on like family adventures, or were you able to sort of go out exploring, by yourself, or did you have siblings? What was that like?
Yes, so I've got two sisters. One's slightly older, 2 years older, and I've got a twin sister, which has the adventure in a completely different situation. We could probably chat for hours in the adventures that we've got up to as twins. But as a kid growing up, had mom, dad, those two sisters, super close, really comfortable, very supportive family growing up. I had my wonderful grandparents on both sides as well, which was great. And the Malverns were like the adventure playground for us. So when Grandad came over with my nana, it would be, we're going to go to the Malvern Hills, 30 minutes down the road. And it was always this epic adventure lined up. And Grandad, for me, was the man that made it the adventure. So he brought out our little imaginations as kids. He'd teach us little survival ways that he learned from the army, of laying tracks and trails to signal where you've gone and what you've got to do to be found. And we'd lay out all these trails all the way up to the hill and forget that we were actually climbing what I thought was a mountain, but it was a hill. And we'd get to the top and then there was a big celebration that we'd made it. But I'd almost forgotten on the way up, like that we were hiking, and the trail that he sort of encouraged us to follow. Now I look back and I realise he was just keeping us entertained. But I just loved it because we'd take the whole family, my cousins would be around as well, and we'd have picnics up there. And it used to be like a whole day out, literally on the hills, just 30 minutes down the road. I loved it.
Did that change during your teenage years?
Yes. So teenage years were tough for me personally, probably like with many a lot of young girls, I say. We've all got hormones, we'll go through those changes and everything. And growing up in school, in primary school, if I can just rewind slightly, I had a super awesome time. I was just absolutely comfortable in my skin, loved all the adventures that I was up to in my private life, going out on my bike with my twin sister almost every single day. And then when we got to teenage years, me and my twin, we had to split classrooms, which was a tricky one for us because we'd never been apart. So we learned a little bit about what it was like to be independent. That was a little bit scary when you're going through like hormonal changes as well. It was a lot to take on. But the biggest thing that I suffered with in my teenage years was not really being in love with myself, if that makes sense. I wasn't comfortable with who I was because of other people making me feel that way. So, all these teenagers basically had the opinion that you had to look this way or that way, wear this dress or that blouse or whatever it was. And I never fit. I never ever fit the particular box that everyone wanted me to go into. So I think I was not rebellious. I think I didn't fight it. I think I let it break me quite a lot when I was going through my teens, if I'm honest. So I had a hard time during high school. Right the way through until college, in fact. and completely lost my way, found a really lovely, uncomfortable place that I didn't want to be in. And I sat there for a few years, and it was tough because I'd forgotten who I was, that little kid that was like out on the Malvern Hills every week with the family, that was just free doing what the hell I wanted to do, to suddenly being like this closed off teenager in my room, not happy who I am, not connecting with nature, not following what I do today, which is, finding my strength in me. I didn't allow any of that to take place.
And thinking back then as well, like in my head, you probably just didn't see girls going on adventures and climbing mountains because, social. Oh, wait a minute. How old are you?
Absolutely. That was the massive, that you've hit the nail on the head really in a very quick sort of sentence. So it was exactly that. A lot of the girls, stereotypical situation, you have long hair, you wear skirts. The girls had tights, they had their ties tied up to their necks, super short. And it was like, that was how you had to do it. Everyone wore jewelry. And I was like, okay, jewelry's impractical. I'm going to get it caught on my bike or something. I didn't want long hair because I had to wear a helmet on my bike and I didn't want it in the way. I didn't want skirts because I'd show my pants, and I wanted shorts or trousers on. So everything was a practical decision. But in society, it taught me that it wasn't about being practical. It was about fitting in, and I didn't.
Yeah. It's that lack of role models, like that lack of visibility, like that impact. Because sometimes I think now, like especially as the Rugby World Cup has been on, all these young girls and boys are growing up with the football, the rugby on television. There's obviously all the Bear Grylls survival programs where women are on these shows, and which is just so important. And obviously those were like really sort of tough years for you when you did sort of lose your way, and then you talked about sort of college. When did things start changing for you, and are you able to pinpoint when and why?
Yeah, that's a really good thought, actually, because I have to go deep. I have to go really deep. It wasn't something that was like a light switch initially. It did take a bit of graft, and I didn't know the direction. So if I'm honest, it took I think I did calculate this once, 27 different jobs for me to get fed up. And those jobs were like so random. I worked in a bank, I worked in a building society, I worked in a bowling alley, I worked for car sales, supermarkets, I was a delivery driver. I tried so many different jobs, and I was starting to think there's absolutely nothing in it for me. I was, broken. I don't know whether I'm meant to be here. Perhaps the matrix went wrong and created me by accident, and all these like massive doubts went through my brain about me. And it was like, yeah, maybe school were right, maybe those kids were right, maybe I'm not meant to be here, my face doesn't fit, I'm not working out, even society doesn't have a place for me. So I had all those like super heavy negative emotions that I was putting on myself. I look back now and I was just telling myself a story and I believed it. I can tell a completely different story now and look back and be like, hey, we did okay actually. But the way in which I got through that, I think, was genuinely and honestly, now I sat on the Malvern Hills and it was a completely random situation. So I'd read a book by a good friend of mine actually called Matt Smith, and he'd released his first book, and in there were some like little tasks for you to do, where you had to list out a number of different adjectives that you could describe yourself today. This is who I am today. And I circled loads of adjectives in this book. And some of those words were really dark. So it was like negative, sad, disappointed, unhappy, not confident, or unconfident, and all these negative words I was circling. And then task 2 was to circle the words that you wanted to be. So I'd circle things like adventurous and happy, confident, comfortable, and determined and strong, and all these positive words that I realized, whoa, I've just realized right now in this moment by doing that little activity that everything I am is not what I want to be, and everything I want to be is not what I am. And I actually cried. I cried my eyes out because it was like this self-realization of all I needed to do was decide to be those things, because the way in which I was the other nasty, horrible, dark words was because I decided, and only I decided, that I was. So nobody actually made me sad or anything if unless I allowed them. So suddenly I was like thinking, well, how do I be happy? How do I how do I be strong? How do I be adventurous? And literally I put myself on Instagram that week, and I registered for an account. I enrolled into this Instagram profile, and I just started to follow people that inspired me, people that I missed when I was a kid, these inspirational people, because we didn't have the phones and the social media when I was a child growing up. So I didn't have what I like to call role models. I didn't have those inspiring characters to look for. And I just started to look at other people and seeing how they were living and what I was attracted to. I started to follow more of. And it was people like, especially women, but a lot of people just outdoors, hiking. What is it that they're doing that I'm not? How do I get to that level when I'm here? And the big thing I needed to do was to lose weight, because I felt like I was unhealthy, and I'd gotten myself unhealthy. I'd put on 5 stone in 2 years. I'd never been overweight all my life, and that those 2 years I was way more overweight than I'd ever been in my life, even to this day. And I started to look at people who were doing everything that I wanted to be in all these adjectives, what created their happiness. And they were doing things that gave them joy, that they were connected to nature, they were spending time outdoors, they were going on hikes, they were doing all the things that actually I loved doing as a kid. And I tapped into my inner child, I think is a fair way of phrasing it. And I printed off this little 2-year-old picture of myself, and I carried it everywhere with me. And whenever I had those moments of doubt, I just looked at myself and I'd reassure the little me and be like, hey, look, we've got this. We're going to do this. I'm a climber. I'm a hiker. I'm an adventurer. Even though I wasn't at that moment, I was telling my little self, like, this is what we are. This is who we are. And this is where we've come from. This is what we were when we were little. So why not be that still now? And literally hour by hour, minute by minute, day by day, I just took myself to local climbing walls. I would go up the Malvern Hills, 2-3 times a week, sometimes even every day. I would make space to spend time for me, with me. And slowly, and I mean slowly, it took 2 years, but slowly I shed 5 stone. I got rid of all the hate in my head. Not all of it, but 95% of it. I turned thoughts away that were negative, and I became the list of adjectives that I'd listed that day on the Malverns when I cried. And now, to this day, I have a permanent tattoo on my wrist of the top 3 adjectives that I circled that day. And they were adventure, love, and happiness. Those were the 3 biggest things that I wanted to be, to follow, to live by. And I had them tattooed in my skin. And as I realized the letters as I put them in order, it just so happened they also are my initials of my name. So I knew that was when I was on the right road.
Oh, Anna! Like, the word that I've got is just so powerful. The way it's interesting, the stories we tell ourselves, because initially when you first were talking about all these different jobs that you've had, in my head I was going, God, that's so awesome. You've tried all these different things just to see whether you liked it or not. And you've had the confidence to start in all these different environments and meet new people and put yourself in all these different challenging situations, which obviously, they weren't right for you, but still, like, just incredibly powerful for you to do it. And then you carried on with the feelings that you shared, feeling like fed up and going through that alpha, you're talking about the adjectives. I call it the alphabet game, and I've done that on hikes. Like, it's like, how would I describe myself? Letter A, and I'm like, amazing, and B, beautiful, and C, confident, and D, I don't know, but as you go through, and it's just so powerful what you shared, just about how you have changed, and that you actually just shared so many tips and tricks in there as well, like that. I am a hiker. I am adventurous. I am a happy. I am. And just healing that inner child. Like, you did a lot of work in that space. And thank you for sharing that journey. And also for sharing that it wasn't sort of like an overnight thing. It's actually, these things can take time, and it's okay for things to take time. It doesn't need to happen immediately.
Absolutely. And I think we are human beings, right, Sarah? We're human beings, not human doings or human sayings. We are beings. And I think that's where it comes from. We need to be what we say we want to be. And I think it's not like in the future, like I'm going to be like when you're kids, I'm going to be an astronaut, I'm going to be a hairdresser, da da da. And you keep saying that when you're a teenager and you're saying it when you're a young adult. And then you realize you're not actually being, you're just saying you're going to do. But when you start to be, you are. And then when someone says, hey, who are you? Oh, I'm Anna. I'm a mountaineer. And you do that check in with yourself. And you're like, actually, am I? Yeah, I am. I do. I am being that person that I say I am. And I think that was where the realization hit that when I was on that Malvern Hills that day crying, who I was being was everything other than who I should have been when I was little. And that connection going back into my inner child and being the person I was meant to be. I think that was overwhelmingly positive, and I can't stop smiling about it now. And I sympathize and completely empathize with your words about looking back and recognizing that all the turmoil, all those hard days are actually just incredible opportunities, like insanely awesome opportunities that not many people get. Some people will just land that job and stick at it. And maybe when they're 40, they'll say, actually, I want to change. And they might take 20 jobs then and see the benefit because they've matured. It's taken me till now to evolve. That's the difference.
When you started your Instagram, did you start it as the mountain girl, or is that something that came much later on?
That is something that came later. I actually started it as myself as Anna Humphries because of the Adventure of Happiness, the Anna Louise Humphries. That's where it began. And then the mountain girl was developed when I realized that I couldn't continue trying to just be Anna in a field of so many competitors in the outdoor industry that nobody would know who I was. So I needed to put a brand name to the face. So I decided to call myself the mountain girl. And then when people, if they were asking like, who's Anna? Actually, the mountain girl was like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I am the mountain girl. So when people saw the mountain girl, they understood already, oh, you must be mountaineering. And I got a lot of people, come to me and say, well, you're a female doing mountaineering, which it took a while to get through that and not be fazed by it. But now, definitely in 2025, for sure, 2026, we're looking at people who are, already there's female mountaineers out there now. It's incredible what young girls and lads can look up to now. There's everything and everyone in every industry, and it's so much more comfortable. And I think that the mountain girl was my way of highlighting who I am, not just what I'm doing, but who I'm being. Like, I am the mountain girl. And that was the start of the brand. And it's kind of progressed into more, I'd like to sort of say I'm apostrophizing it to the mountain girls, because I've opened those gates. It's no longer about me. It's not just, hey, I'm Anna and this is what I'm doing. It's, hey, look, this is the brand. This is what we're about. Like, who's in? Because it's for everyone. It's for all the girls that are in school looking up and saying, I want to be a mountaineer, so that they've got a role model and they can look at the mountain girl as a brand and think, I want to do that.
I just keep thinking as well, especially with things like Duke of Edinburgh Award or like mountain leader qualifications, or the Scouts and the Girl Guides, etc. Like having women in these roles is so important. Like, it's just so, like it's the visibility and it is the role models. And I suppose it'd be great to learn more a little bit about sort of your training, your career, like the different steps that you took. I mean, did you do like Duke of Edinburgh Award, or was that not really sort of offered at your school?
So I did by fluke and accident. So my twin sister got offered the DofE in college, and I was on a different course. I was doing languages because I didn't know what to do, and I just wanted to do languages because it would get me in country to travel to those countries. So she went through like the policing side of things, and they got offered the Duke of Edinburgh Award. And it was by fluke that I sort of said I'd love to be a part of it. I was a little bit envious and I really wanted in. It sounded incredible to get out and go camping and hiking. And so they said, look, we'll make sure that you can get in as well. There's twins. And they kindly granted me a place. So in college, I was what was called a direct entrant. So I skipped bronze and silver awards. I went straight into gold. And it was the first proper time I'd ever done anything real in navigation in the mountains. Up until that point, I'd only ever taken myself for like a walk on a Saturday at the Malverns, and completely done it by remembering the route because we used to go as a family. But it was the first time I'd properly opened a map. I'd had to learn how to do route cards with my team, and we planned an expedition. And the first one, Sarah, failed miserably because we got so lost. So we ended up on our fourth day. Our compass, the magnetic needle had been interrupted by a magnet on the water sort of neck of a tube leading from a bladder on one of the rucksacks. So when we were navigating, it was spinning quite literally in the opposite direction. And we were clearly not using the map properly either, because we ended up going like basically north instead of south, or south instead of north. It was completely the opposite direction. And it wasn't small. It was 4.5 hours in the wrong direction before we picked up on it.
Oh, God. Yeah.
We ended up getting a shuttle minibus. They pulled us off and they were like, don't worry, you got to day 4. You've learnt your mistakes. It was all training. Don't do it again. So we were like, right, we've really got to knuckle down and figure what we have to do. And after then, I worked so hard to not fail because I wanted so much to be back on that expedition. I did not want to go home. I did not want to be told I can't do it because I loved it. I love waking up in the mornings to the sound of the rivers and the rain, the sheep, everything. I loved everything about it. And I loved it more than college. I loved it more than school. It was like the thing that I never knew I needed. And so we went out, we did our gold qualifier, smashed it. We did 4 days. This time we didn't get lost. We nailed it. We got back. And out of something like 30 students that enrolled on the gold, there was only literally 2 or 3 of us that actually got the gold award. And that was because when you've done your expedition, you've still got another 4 sections within the award to complete. You've got skills, volunteering, your service, and everything else that you have to do. And the onus becomes on you as a young adult. You have to take ownership. So you go off, you get busy. Some students go to university. They probably forget. I went straight into work, and I was working at a bank. And I sort of forgot that I had enrolled in my gold, and I left it for some years. I was 23 before I picked it back up. And you had to get the award in before your 25th birthday. So I only had like less than 2 years to get this in. And it was whilst I was volunteering in Scouts, that was another opportunity that I picked up in my local Scout group round the corner. And I realised, oh, there's badges in this. You know, we can get shirts, we can stick badges on. I love the recognition of awards, and not just for kids, but for the adults. It was like, I'm finally doing adventure. Like, I'm finally being this adventurous person. I'm a scout leader, I'm a hiker, I'm a navigator, I'm a DVer. Hang on, I didn't get my gold DV. I'm not actually a DVer. So that was when I kind of ruffled back through my books and found my little gold award book. And I thought, I did all the work, I just didn't submit it. And I got it in when I was 24 years old. I got it through the books. They signed it off. And I actually attended the gold ceremony after my 25th birthday, but I had achieved it just in time. So I did get my gold. I then went back to college as a volunteer, and I went on to get what was called a Basic Expedition Leadership Award. I volunteered my time to support the DAV because I loved it that much. I brought that to Scouts. I started offering Duke of Edinburgh DAV awards to my local Scout group. And from there, I started the good old mountain training through different layers of qualifications from lowland to hill and moorland. I'm now a mountain leader, and I got that one in 2016.
Oh, congratulations. Thank you for sharing that. Like, and you can, honestly, you can just hear the passion in your voice. So like having you as like the leader, like I can see all these excited kids, but you just being like, happy but also firm, like I don't know, I could just see you being such a good like expedition leader. And I know it's not just, you know, what you do through the Mountain Girl with all, you know, the teaching and the training that you offer there, but you also do go on your own sort of personal challenges and adventures. And I'd love just to hear a little bit more about them, like where that really started for you when you started like heading off to further afield to far-flung places around the world.
Yeah, of course. So it came from that DV. Reality is probably it came from my childhood on those Malvern Hill days with Grandad, laying trails. It was re-established when I was a teenager, 16, 17, getting that gold. And that was a bit of a lifesaver in that turmoil of teenage years, not fitting in, you know, not being the person that everyone wanted me to be. Suddenly on Duke of Edinburgh, everyone looked the same. We were all scruffy. We all had the roughest clothes on. No one cared. We were all muddy. We all stank. None of us showered. for whatever reason, I embraced it and I absolutely loved it. Being in nature was like this huge comfort blanket for me, ripping off all comforts that everyone else might think is comfortable, like the duvets, the pillows, the hotels. I didn't want anything. I just wanted nature. I just wanted my sleeping bag and sheep. And that was the pinnacle moment of, right, this is my career. This is where I need to go, because this is the only thing right now at the age of 16, 17 that I am absolutely loving. And that was what initiated going into Scouts at the age of 19 as a young Scout leader. And the Scouts Association have incredible opportunities to gain awards. So I started to get my climbing wall award. I got what was called a Nights Away award, so I could take the kids camping. And then I started to realize that I didn't have the qualifications to kind of back it up outside of Scouts, which is when I went into the mountain leader stuff, which opened my opportunities to then say, this isn't just Scouts anymore. I don't just have to volunteer, although I'm going to continue volunteering because I love it. It's a huge passion and the kids get so much out of it. I didn't want to stop that. But I also realized that I needed to make a career path for myself, that I can't just keep doing everything for nothing. I was going to run out of money and I had not enough time to offer because I was trying to work. Work wasn't good because it wasn't my passion. So what I ended up doing is, by the age of 24, that was by the time I'd done 27 different jobs as a Scout leader, I started to think there must be something in adventure that I can do and earn money. The Duke of Edinburgh was already in there. And I just thought, surely I can earn something by doing this. And so I put myself out onto Facebook as a self-employed freelancer. I was a qualified mountain leader. I thought, come on, there must be something for me. And slowly people were just offering different jobs and I'd put myself forwards and I'd miss a load and a ton more would come in and I'd miss all those. And then suddenly I was grasping the odd day here, the odd day there. And I think my first year was made up of like part-time work in a city council office, admin, and part-time was outdoors doing Duke of Edinburgh for different schools. And I travelled so far. I'd literally get up in the morning, I'd drive 4 hours to a school in London to deliver Duke of Edinburgh training for them, and I'd drive home the very same day. I got paid probably minimum wage, but it was fueling a passion. It was giving me a kick that I absolutely loved, and that was, teaching kids about the Duke of Edinburgh. I knew the value of it and I wanted them to do the same. So day by day and month by month, I started to get more contacts, more work was coming in. The harder I worked, the more work I got given. If you do a good job, you kind of reap the benefits by doing that. They're putting that good energy in and they started to offer me more work. Then I became like a senior team member and I started to lead some of the sessions. So I'd take the kids out on expeditions and I'd actually start to look after the staff as well as the students. And I loved it, absolutely adored putting together Duke of Edinburgh expeditions and going out, seeing the kids achieving. And also for a big one was retention, not just doing the expeditions, but following up and getting these kids to make sure they got the awards that they so deserved. And year on year, after a few years, that was when I realized that I could do this. I could do this myself. There's nothing out there still that exists that's like women-led or female industry of inspiring the next generation of girls. There was a lot of guys leading. All of the teams that I was working with were male. And I kind of just wanted to lead by example for some of these girls that had situations where they'd be on expedition, there'd be a male teacher or a male instructor, and they'd often say, can we have Anna? Because they had their personal reasons. A lot of it was menstrual cycles or personal issues that they just didn't want to declare to guys. And I was thinking, I'm spreading myself so thin here that I can't do everything, but I could build a brand. And that brand, that was me, the Mountain Girl, was established, and I started to offer a lot of what I was doing. I started to go into schools myself, local schools though, and target areas that were not offering Duke of Edinburgh to say, hey, look, I can come and help support you and run this program. And then they'd start to say, oh, well, could you do other things as well? Could you bring in, do a team building event, or could you come and do a talk to some of the girls and tell them about your adventures? And that's when I was like, I haven't got many adventures, but maybe I need to start doing adventures. And that's when I was starting to lead mountain days, because I'd done my mountain leader, but I wasn't at the point where I was offering mountain trips. And so it all began really as a result of me doing and being so that I could say to these kids, hey, look, this is what I'm actually up to. And then you could do the same. And then I started to get bookings, and more people, a lot of women, more and more people were jumping on the bandwagon and coming on some of these hikes. We had survival experiences, camps. We did mountain treks, multiple day mountain treks, 24-hour experiences in the wild, team building events. And it just started to grow. And I just let it grow completely naturally. It wasn't me coming up with, I must do this, I must do that. It was as a result of schools, parents, moms, dads coming up to me and just saying, do you reckon you could do this? Or even the scouts, do you think you could put together this? And because I had the tools and the knowledge to do it, I just started offering it, and it just started to fill. And established the website at that point, and realized I needed a landing page because I was just telling people about it, but I needed some information that I could share. And that's really where it started. The ball started rolling for the Mountain Girl.
You also got some great trips coming up in 26, like Everest Base Camp and rewilding in Zimbabwe and Mount Tobacco. How do you say that?
Tubcal.
Tubcal. Oh my God! Obviously, but
I much prefer your version.
But you've been to Everest Base Camp before. How was that for you?
Yeah, so that was stemmed because coming back to that scenario of going into schools and saying, this is what I'm up to. Some of the kids had actually said to me, "What's been your best adventure?" And by the time I was like 28, 29, I still only done what some might say were awesome, epic adventures. I was entirely grateful of all the opportunities I'd had. But I never had something that I was like, whoa, that took me to the edge. And that was incredible. So what happened was, for my 30th birthday that year, 2018, I decided that I would set 2 or 3 epic challenges that I would try and achieve. And one of them was Everest Base Camp. Another one was to stand up paddleboard the English Channel, having never, ever touched a paddleboard in my life. So the Everest Base Camp trip that I did, I actually took part as a participant, and I've always wanted to go and see Everest. It's always a question, and I'm still wondering about the answer as to whether I'd ever go for the summit, but I knew I wanted to do base camp. And having done it and explored not just the hike and climbing and getting to the top and everything else, which was incredible, and it was super hard but super rewarding to do it. It was also like the journey that I was on with other people, sharing that experience and the cultures that I was experiencing along the way. And since then, I've done a hell of a lot of traveling. I've explored a lot of different cultures across the world, and I just feel like I wasn't born to stay still. My wings, as my mom always says to me, my wings are unclipped and I am free as a bird, and I like to go off and explore. And I always come home to the Malvern Hills, but I will always love to go off and find new places to venture into. And once I've done that, I want to share it. It's not just me. I'm not ego driven. I'm like nature driven. It's hard to explain, but whatever it is, it's pulling me over there. And then I'm like, whoa, guys, that was awesome. Come and do it. And that's kind of why I want these epic adventures next year. A lot of people have said to me, do you do this? Do you do that? And as I said earlier, everything is kind of just, I flow with whatever is put in front of me. If someone asks for it, I make it happen. I'm a kind of think and do constantly. And the stand-up paddleboard was a success. We did it in 5 hours, 47 minutes from Rye in England all the way to Boulogne in France. It was the most epic adventure. And that started my passion then for stand-up paddleboarding. And since then, I've become a SUP coach, and now I can teach it to other people. So everything is kind of stemmed to encourage others to do the same.
I love that. So I can imagine, obviously, with Everest Base Camp, it's hiking, it's the mountains. That is your comfort zone. That is your happy place. You are the mountain girl. But stand-up paddleboarding, that's the water. That's not the mountains. In terms of sort of stepping outside your comfort zone, what was that journey like as well? Especially because you said you hadn't really had much experience before taking on this challenge.
Mm-hmm. The word challenge is something that absolutely gets me going positively. And the biggest core memory I have of overcoming my first proper challenge was actually as a young scout leader. I must have been 19, 20 years old. And I had a group of young scouts, and they all said they'd love to go climbing. And I didn't have any scout leader support. We were a very small group. It was very new. It was basically run down, and we started it from the bottom up. And I wasn't qualified then to take them, but my emotional inner being was just raging with anger inside me that was like, if you don't take them, they're missing out. So I had a fear of heights, and I thought, well, I can't do this. I can't get myself on a climbing wall because I don't like heights. What happens if I fall? What happens if my knots don't, work and I slip? And then the opportunity came out in Scouts for leaders to attend this climbing course. And everything in my bones was like, do it, do it, do it, do it. And then everything in my head was like, no, just don't. It's stupid. You're going to hurt yourself. You don't know what you're doing. You've never done it before. You're scared of heights. It's stupid. But those kids, I was just looking at those kids and they were just like, they called me Skip. Come on, Skip. We'd love to go. We'd love to go climbing. We've never done it. And what I kept on thinking is, if other people can do it, why can't I? Don't go back into that shell of a teenager that was put down by all this negativity. Like, tell myself I can do this. What am I? I'm a climber. I'm a hiker. I'm this. And I just said, right, this is it. I'm going to be a climber. So I attended the course. I absolutely crapped it. I attended this course. Day one, it was all about understanding the ropes, tying the knots. And I found it secure because I thought, okay, well, this is good. If I know that the knot's secure, then I'm secure, which helped mentally overcome the fear of falling. And then it was like introduced the tower that we had to climb up. And it was not small, it was sort of 15, 20 meters. And I remember going up it the first time thinking, oh my gosh, I don't think I can do this. But then they said, you tie your own knots. And I thought, well, if I tie the knot, I've only got myself to blame if this goes wrong. But equally, I know it won't go wrong because I've learned how to do it right. So all I've got to do is just tie this knot right and I'm good. And so I triple checked, probably 6 times over, checked my knots, and I was good. And off I went on this abseil down this vertical face. And I freaking loved it. I was free. I was floating. I was zipping down thinking, I'm good. I'm connected. This is all fine. Like, I know the setup. I've learned the theory. This is the practical. I zipped down and we did it 17, 18 times over. I completed the course, got the certificate, went back to the Scouts and I said, kids, we're going climbing. And their faces were like pure joy. And all I kept on thinking is, I made that happen for them. That is what this is about. So I think the biggest thing with the Everest Base Camp, fast forward a few years, was I was back in that seat of, this is going to be tough. This is going to be hard. This is not going to be easy. I can hike. I can keep walking. So surely I can do this. Why am I doubting myself? And it was hard, but I did it and I hiked it. And by doing it, it felt like coming back to those kids, like, if I can do it and show people that I've done it, then it's just going to encourage another 100, maybe 1,000, maybe 100,000 people to go and do it too. So the biggest kick I think I get out of any challenge is, if I can do it, I'm therefore showing others that they can too.
So one of the other challenges that you've done quite a few times now is the National Three Peaks Challenge. I'd love for you to share just a little bit more about that and that experience and why you enjoy doing it.
So National Three Peaks is something that the first time I ever did it, I did it as a business opportunity. So the situation was, I'd hiked Snowdon, I'd done Scarfell Pike in England, and never ever tapped into Scotland at that point. And I really wanted to do Ben Nevis. And this charity came up to me and said, hey, can you do the National Three Peaks? And I'd always wanted to just participate, having never done it before. And I sort of threw myself right under the bus, because in this situation, I was like, this gives me an opportunity to do it, but I've never done it, so I don't want to do it wrong. And this charity, basically, I was completely honest, and I said, look, we can do it, but you guys could be my guinea pigs for it. So let's just roll with it. And I offered it, basically, I did it free of charge, and they loved it. And we took these guys out. There was a group of 8 on this minibus. We'd hired a minibus. And through my experience with Scouts, I knew how to pull together trips and adventures. So I did all my paperwork, my risk assessments. I'd done all my route planning back in the days of Gold DOV, and we'd planned this trip down to the T, and off we went. Drove up to Fort William on the Friday. We stayed Friday night. We all met for breakfast on Saturday morning, and we did Ben Nevis for the first time in my life. And then we had to do it. We're obviously gunning it because we needed to do the whole event within sub 24 hours. So my first time on Ben Nevis was painful because we were going so hard, and I didn't take it in. There was hardly any views anyway at the top. We got down straight into the minibus and we were gone. So I'd been in Scotland for, less than a day. It literally turned up in the afternoon and I've gone before the following afternoon. So that was my first experience of Ben Nevis. But having then completed the 3 peaks successfully in under 24 hours, everything went smoothly. And I thought, wow, if I can pull this together under pressure, and I've worked it all out to make it happen for this group, and we kept them safe, and we kept, we did everything above board, then I can take a breather and put this out for other people and do it without so much stress on my head next time. So more people got in touch. They saw that we'd done it. There's big achievements, and it actually hit the press because it was for the charity. We raised lots of money for them, which was fantastic. And another charity came in, and another one. I think we did 3 the following year. And that's when I started to think, I wonder if I could do this by myself, because I absolutely loved guiding people. Sub 24 hours is hard going, but I never really knew what my personal efforts would be like, just myself, when I've got no one else to think about or to worry about or look after. Like, how would I do it? So that's when I set my challenge. And it was again in 2018, the year of my 30th. This was the 3rd challenge that I did. And I set myself a goal to do a solo 3 peaks. And I did it in 19 hours, 27 minutes, which is a beautiful number because it's also the year my granddad was born, who's my biggest hero coming back to my childhood, who set the inspiration for all my mountain adventures. And really that was kind of like an epic way to sort of say, we offer the 3 peaks adventures, because I've done it now. I've done it so many times that I know exactly what people need. I can explain exactly how it's going to be. And I think that gives everyone comfort. If you're booking something new, you've never done something before, you want someone who can answer the questions. What's it like to do it hard? What's it like to do it fast? But what's it like to do it slow? And actually, for the first time next year, we're offering 3 peaks over 3 days, because there's a niche. There's something there that people want to do it one mountain at a time. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with that either. So I'm really looking forward to doing it a lot more casually, and this time embracing the views, hopefully on Ben Nevis.
Oh, fantastic. I was going to say, it's always hard to get good views on Ben Nevis. It's always like clouded. And I'm heading up Scarfell
Yeah.
Pike?
Scarfell Pike.
Yeah, on this Sunday, this weekend.
Amazing.
It'll be really fun. I was going to say, I was on your website, which I love, by the way. And I love the fact, like, in your shop, you've got these little buttons that you can get, which says, I've climbed Scarfell. So I think I'm going to have to buy a couple, because I'm doing it with friends, so I can give to them.
Good for you.
Give to them on the top of the mountain.
I am all for rewards. Once you've put the effort in, you reap the benefit. And I think a little treasure on your rucksack to remember what you've gone through is just essential. So good luck with that, but you're going to smash it.
Oh, thank you. And how can people connect with you, find out more about the different adventures, the different opportunities that you offer? Obviously, just, you shared a few of them, but how can people connect with you?
We're on Facebook, so it's the Mountain Girl UK. Instagram is also the Mountain Girl UK. You can find our website, which is www.themountaingirl.co.uk. Nice and easy ones. And then we're also on X. On X, we're at mountaingirl_UK.
Anna, I'd love you to share your final words of advice, final words of wisdom and top tips for other women out there who do want to spend more time in the mountains. Apart from just do it, what advice would you like to share? And you can take that in any direction you'd like.
Thank you. I think it's such a wide way of answering, but the gist is, from my experience, is be the person you needed when you were growing up. So if there's this deep inner passion of wanting to be this particular person, is to just physically be that. And if you don't know how to start, just start to explore, get yourselves on Insta or socials, websites, start to look out there and see what's going on. It doesn't just need to be me. Find other people, whether you're man, woman, whoever you are, find that inspiration and follow it. And I really mean be it. Don't just say you're going to do it, but actually put your words and actions to it and just book it, go for it, and you can't go wrong. You're going to absolutely enjoy it.
Absolutely. Anna, the mountain girl from One Tough Girl. Oh, I want to end this well. I'm going to try that again. Anna, thank you so much for coming on the Tough Girl podcast. It's been amazing to speak to you. So from the tough girl to the mountain girl, thank you for sharing your story on the Tough Girl podcast.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, tribe. I really hope you enjoyed that episode with Anna. So it is Sarah, aka The Tough Girl, the host of the Tough Girl podcast. Just at the end of the podcast episodes, I like just have a little catch up, just have a little chat, just, update you on what I've been up to, give you a couple of recommendations, and also just share a few little thoughts that, that I've been having. A couple of things that really spoke to me during this episode was around that self-acceptance, around Anna struggling during her teenage years. And I think that is quite common. And I think even into early 20s, there's almost like so much pressure on younger people to try and know what it is that they want to do and where to go and what to be. And actually, you can spend your whole 20s figuring stuff out, like Anna did, 27 jobs. Like I said during the podcast, I still think that's amazing to have had all of those different experiences for Anna to find that what she is passionate about, the mountains, going through the Duke of Edinburgh Award, becoming a mountain leader, learning new skills, gaining the opportunity, starting up Mountain Girl, becoming the role model that she wished that she had while she's growing up. So I find that absolutely inspiring. And role models is something that I have talked about a lot. It's one of the driving factors of the Tough Girl mission, Tough Girl challenges, is to increase the amount of female role models in the adventure and physical challenges space. And Anna is one of those women. And, there was a couple of really key things that I really liked that she shared as well is, learning from others. So if you're looking for inspiration and you're not finding it around you, there is a love-hate relationship with social media. I totally get that. But you can cultivate your social media so that you only follow women in adventure, women who do physical challenges, women who inspire you. Cultivate your social media feeds. If you start seeing posts of things that you don't like, and this is, again, just my opinion, I block, I mute. My social media is a very sort of like happy, positive place. And yes, it's not good to be in like an echo chamber, but actually sometimes my echo chamber is really lovely because I just get to hear about women doing amazing challenges around the world, climbing mountains, rowing across oceans, winning backyard ultras, following their passions and their interests. And that inspires me. I think the other thing, hopefully you'll get from the messaging throughout Tough Girl Challenges is, especially, at the end when I get the women to share their advices and top tips. And I say, please don't say, just do it, because that's almost like that is an expected thing that you do need to do at some point. You have to take the action. You have to take the first step. And I get it, taking that first step. That's where, that's why I've been trying to cultivate the different advice is for you to, for you to pick and choose, well, hold on, what do I need to be able to take that action, to take that first step? Because in order to move forward, you've got to make the move. You've got to take the first step. So I would just encourage you to really think about what it is that you want to achieve. What adventures and challenges haven't you done yet? Be adventure driven, not ego driven. If it's going to visit the Malvern Hills, if it's going for a walk at your local park, if it's visiting your national park, if it's going to the beach, visiting the coast, or visiting places that inspire you, do that. Anna talked about paddling across the English Channel, the National Three Peaks Challenge, or visiting Mount Everest Base Camp. There are lots of opportunities out there which will fit your interests, fit your passions, fit your hobbies, fit your budget, fit your, the amount of time that you have available to do these different challenges. So many great top tips and pieces of advice. And if you're looking for more of that, you are in the right place. You spend some time on the Tough Girl Challenges website, you will be able to find so many women in the world of adventure and physical challenges that are out there living their best lives. There is a very detailed resources section. And I allocate, so every time I have, women come on the Tough Girl podcast, they get sort of put into the different categories. So whether they're explorers and expedition leaders, world travelers, sailors, adaptive athletes, whether they've done Marathon des Sars, Mount Aconcagua, Mount Everest, whether they're thru-hikers, whether they're mountaineers, polar explorers, ocean rowers, there will be a dedicated page related to them. And if you're not 100% sure what it is that you're interested in at the moment, that is okay as well. You might enjoy listening to the top 10 Tough Girl podcast episodes that I have, collated together. So there's the top 10 Tough Girl podcast episodes of all time. And then there are the individual top 10 episodes from each year, going back all the way to 2015, because the Tough Girl podcast has been around for 10 years. So, there's 100 episodes for you to listen to. And again, there's such variety. Even, when I scroll back to 2015, we had Amy Hughes running 53 marathons in 53 days, Sally Kettle, world record holder, 2-time Atlantic ocean rower, Tori James, first Welsh woman to climb Mount Everest, Emma Timmis, National Adventure of the Year, 2015 for running across Africa, Lisa Williams swam across the English Channel, and Daniels, a record-breaking polar explorer, Sophie Radcliffe from Challenge Sophie, all the way up to, our most recent episodes in 2025 that we have available for you to listen to. Veronica White, PhD student, cycling 2,000 miles across England, exploring the future of farming through women's perspectives. Preet Shundi, MBE, breaking boundaries, world record breaking polar explorer. Robin Godfrey, running the world, a runner's odyssey of struggle and triumph in the world marathon majors. Julie Wise, the marathon goddess, running 52 marathons in 52 weeks for pancreatic cancer and creating a legacy of hope. Jen Phillips, showing more about going through medical menopause to becoming a trail leader. So her journey to outdoor empowerment. Honestly, sometimes, if I'm feeling like, I need some inspiration, I just go back and sometimes I scroll through all the past episodes and I'm like, wow, there are just so many stories, just so many stories of women giving their advice and tips, talking about their failures, their lessons, what they've learned, the journey that they've been on. There's so much information available for you to pick up, all for free. You can go and listen to over the 800 episodes, all for free on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Spotify, YouTube, whichever is your podcast listening platform. I'd love for you to tell one friend about the Tough Girl podcast, because that's how we inspire more women and girls around the world. So if you can just share the podcast with one friend, that would be amazing. If you're financially in a great place at the moment and you've been listening to the podcast for a while, I'd love for you to make a one-off donation or sign up and become a patron. You can visit Patreon, patreon.com/Tough Girl Podcast, and you can sign up as a monthly patron or an annual patron, and it just supports the work that I do. If you subscribe now, you'll also get access to the film that I created. It's called 10, which is about my journey across the Pyrenees mountain range and also celebrating 10 years of the Tough Girl podcast. So I think you'd probably enjoy that. Thank you again for listening. All that's left for me to say is, wherever you are, whatever you are doing, give it your all, give it 110%, get after it, go for it, believe in yourself, because I believe in you. Take care, lots of love, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.